What's up, everyone? Coming to you from my little holiday in Italy at the moment. And I just wanted to go on a kind of a freestyle rant. I have no idea how this is going to help people. I just know it helps me. And so maybe something will come of it for you. What I want to talk about is nothing new. These aren't ideas of my own, really. But the concept that we aren't what we think we are. Take a word, say, like identity. Each of us has an identity. It's probably labeled with your own name. For some of you, it will be your job, and you see yourself as a CEO, or an artist, or a parent. But most of us, they have an idea of like, this is me. This is sort of static thing. Now, there's this old philosophical riddle, and I can't remember the name of it, but it doesn't really matter. Where there's this old ship, wooden ship, and over time, as parts get broken and so on, they get replaced. Till eventually you get to a point where every part has been replaced. Now the boat looks the same as it did, but every part is new. And the riddle, of course, is it the same boat? Now there's something similar that happens to human beings, which is, so some dudes fucking around on bikes. We go through a change according to biological science where our cells and our particles are replaced. They wear out, they die, they dissipate, skin flakes off, etc. Through our body waste, particles leave, and new ones are growing from the food we eat and so on. And over about a 7-year cycle, everything in your body is replaced. So if you're older than 7 years old, you are completely new ship. Every part of you has been replaced. And in case you didn't already kind of have some awareness of this, just look at the difference between you now and you as a kid, right? Your fingernails are bigger, your face looks different, your hair is different, mine certainly is. You've clearly been replaced physically. What you don't see is that all of your organs, including your brain, every cell, every particle, every molecule has been replaced at some point. Some of them regenerate quite often. Your skin, for example, is constantly flaking off and regenerating. Your skin's only days or weeks old, months maybe. Whereas I think the 7 years applied to the liver. I can't remember the details. But every part of you has been replaced every 7 years, and within that, some of them even more frequently, including your brain. But we get the sense of continuity, like I've been the same person since I was born. We kind of tell ourselves, don't we? And yet, even your memories are really copy and paste. So you think when you say, think of a memory from your childhood right now, you think that you're pulling this thing out of storage and looking at it, the original copy, like your birth certificate. But actually, you're looking at a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy, on and on. The longer the memory, the more times it's been copied. Basically, every time you recall it, you make a copy that replaces what you recalled. I'm going to spat out some chip when I did that. So let's say if I think back to, I don't know, a time in childhood where I stood on a thumbtack. I remember I stood on a tack and it went into my heel. It was very, very painful. Even now, as I think about it, I remember the tack actually going into my foot, and I didn't see that at the time. I've got a clear visual memory of the tack going into my foot. So I've added that. I've imagined the tack going in from like I had a foot cam going, and that's been added to the memory. And right now, as I tell you about the memory and I imagine it, like where I was on the playground, for some reason there seems to be no other kids about. I don't know if that's true anymore, so on. I don't even remember exactly what age I was. At some point I knew what age I was, like the next day that I remembered it happening, I would have known exactly what age I was, but now I've lost that piece of information. It could be anywhere between the age of 7 to about 12 because of the school I was at the time. As I'm talking to you now, I've just replaced that memory with this new one that I just created as I told you about it. The original's long since been replaced. It's kind of like the Bible. It's just been rewritten and translated and rewritten again, and old copies destroyed every time this happens. That The new version, all we know for sure is it is not the original. We know that for sure. So if you think your continuity of self, of who you are, is at the very least based on memory, well, that's faulty thinking as well. Your memories are current, not old. You're not digging something out of the past. There is no time travel happening here. You're having a present thought, an imagination of the past. You're not actually seeing the past itself. And you'll notice that if you don't recall memories often, the attrition of your brain constantly changing, you lose those memories permanently. There are times where you might see an old photograph of yourself, or maybe a video these days, and you just have no recollection of being there. Someone says, oh, I remember that concert we went to, and you're like, no, I don't. Like, I believe you, I don't remember it at all. And it's not that you have a recollection problem necessarily, it's like you actually have deleted the memory, that the cells that contain that energy, or however fuck memories work. I don't think even neuroscientists fully understand it, but that pathway, that neural pathway, has dissolved and disintegrated with misuse or with disuse and no longer exists. Who you think of yourself as has changed. You think of who you thought of yourself as at all the sevens, like at a 7-year-old, as a 17-year-old, as a 27-year-old. It's constantly different, isn't it? At one point you're a virgin, and the next point you're not, you know. At one point you had lots of friends, and the next point you felt really lonely. Like, which one of these guys are you, girls? We can go on and on in this vein. The point being is, if you do enough kind of critical thinking about who am I, what am I, the answer starts to become very shaky. It starts to be like, well, I don't actually know. The idea that something has been there my entire life, there's no evidence for that. Anything that you think has been continuous, like, oh, I've always had at least this quality my whole life, can easily be challenged. Like, maybe you say, well, you know, my parents told me that even as a kid, I was a really good reader, and I'm still a good reader. But what about the times you're not reading? What are you then? Is it just a kind of latent skill? If you were to get some sort of brain damage that affected your ability to read, does that mean you're now a different person? Or you're the same person, just with less skill? How much is the skill part of the identity? And so on. And with just a few mental experiments, you can dissolve any idea that there is a you that is continuous. We know it's not your body. We know it's not your mind. What else is left? The religious amongst you might say a soul. Again, I'd say, well, where's the evidence for that? And even if there is such a thing as a soul, where's the evidence that that remains unchanged? You know, I've known people that were wonderful, joyous people as children, and now are evil, bitter people. It seems that if they did have a soul, even that has morphed into something quite different to what the original was. That the goodness is gone. And I've seen the opposite. I've worked with criminal offenders who have gone from evil to wonderful people. And it's not an act. They've really had a big transformation, so big that their entire personality framework has been shifted. I myself have gone from introvert to extrovert in my life. Apparently you're not supposed to be able to do that, but I've definitely done it. I've gone from agreeable to disagreeable. Apparently you're not supposed to be able to do that. I've definitely done it. And I'm not the only one. How does this help? Well, after you go through your first burst of nihilism, you go, oh my God, nothing matters because I don't even exist, you start to realize there's freedom in what I'm talking about. That you can decide what's going to be consistent. You can decide that the consistency can be about something other than your physical body or your mind. The decision I ended up coming to, which, you know, there is no scientific proof that this is the right decision to come to, but the one that feels right and continues to feel right, is integrity. Now, integrity itself simply means consistency. Consistency plus honesty is the basic dictionary definition of integrity. And the thing is that that itself can be maintained consistently. Because having integrity really just means being real in the way that you behave, that your behavior matches your current internal belief system about right and wrong, about what you think is true. So you say what you think is true, you do what you think is right. Not what you think is easy, not necessarily what you want to do or feel like doing, but what you currently believe is the right thing to do. And you say what you currently believe to be true. Now, what you say and do will change a lot over time. The consistency isn't in the expression. Me doing the right thing right now is making this video. But, I don't know, 10 years doing the right thing was, challenging one of my staff members to stop bullying another staff member. Completely different behavior. But it was the right thing at the right time. The key was the values behind it, the principles behind it were the same. Express what I believe is true, try to help people. These are the things that stay consistent. Core values, even the definitions of them can change, but what you'll find is there's certain values that you've always had, even if you haven't lived by them. One of the things I learned working with criminal offenders, I work with guys who have done much harm in their life. They've been very harmful people. And yet, deep down, they've always known it was wrong. They hate it when it's done to them. That's one of the ways they've always known that it's wrong. So even as they beat someone up, they know that they don't like someone beating them up. And they certainly don't like someone picking on the underdog, Yeah, some fun there. But I think what people do is they get bogged down in a commitment or a loyalty to an identity that they've decided upon. I am this, I am that, I am this diagnosis, I am that vocation, I am this role. And they kind of die with the lie. So no matter what happens, no matter how much life begs them to adjust and update to new information, they conserve. That's where the word conservative comes from. It's not actually a political stance. Conservative means to maintain the same. Liberal means to change, to be flexible. People, as they get older, especially, they get more and more conservative. That's often reflected also in their political beliefs, but they get more about staying the same. You'll see someone, they're going to stay an accountant just because they've always been an accountant. They'll keep doing what they've always done simply because they've always done it. They've tried that type of consistency. But that often leads us to breach our integrity, our values. If someone's always been dishonest, they just keep being dishonest. If someone's always put on a performance and been manipulative, like I was for much of my life, they keep doing it because they've always done it. They're kind of like, if I keep doing it forever, then it counts as being real. But as the saying goes, as the lyrics from the Lamb of God song go, you tell the same lie 1,000 times, it doesn't get any more true. You can't lie to yourself about whether or not you're being real. You can, but not for long. There's warning signs that you're doing it. So what I came to realize is that even though my body always changes, and my mind always changes, because my mind is based on my brain and that's constantly changing. And every time I talk to someone or perceive any information whatsoever, it gets into my brain, changes who I am in some small way. And the combined weight of it means that over the years I've become a completely different person. I don't have to fight against this to be consistent. I don't have to resist new information and conserve. What I need to do is a kind of combination of conservative and liberal, which is I flexibly update how I act by consistent values. So I'm keep asking myself, what's a better way to be honest, for example, or what new thing can I do that would be courageous? Courage is a good example. People will say, that they're brave. They'll think of themselves as brave because they're doing something that they once found scary. But they don't actually find it scary anymore. So they don't realize that no longer counts as bravery. If you're not scared, you're not being brave. Because you were once scared doesn't mean that you currently are. Somebody might think of themselves like, I've got good endurance because I go for a 10K run every day. Well, if you can do 10Ks every day for years and years, then it's no longer a test of your endurance. Those Ks should be going up, or you should have changed the activity. Like try rock climbing now, or try sitting still. Endurance should always feel difficult. If it feels easy, it's not endurance. Honesty is the same. You might say, I've always said that. Well, then update it. You should be able to say something even more truthful every time you speak. Every time you share your ideas, they should be updated to be even more truthful if you're trying to be honest, and so on. Like I said, I don't know how this will help anyone, or even if it will. But letting go of the idea that I am a single thing that stays still as time goes on was not only freeing, but of course just accurate. I clearly am not the same thing, not even second by second. Even right now, as I make this video, it's changing me. So the Dan who started this video ends as a different person, right? I might give him the same name, he might look basically the same, but that's just an illusion. If you look closely, you'd see all the cells have changed. You'd see the neural pathways have been rewritten. It's not the same person at all. So, do with that information what you will. I hope you guys get something out of it. Get in touch with me, dan@brojo.org, if you want any help kind of applying this in your life in a way that's satisfying. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.